many gods. The Bible then was filled with the exploits and backgrounds of many lords and gods. The term Genesis was a derivative of gene, or the germ of life, and it implied generation and growth, not something out of nothing as the priests implied. In the priests' Genesis, they tell a simple story for a simple following and leave out most of the causation facts. They mention nothing of the many gods sent here from the war in heaven, told by John the Revelator, or the millions of years it took for the light to be seen on earth, or for the spiritual non-material firmament atoms to form together to form the material land. In most of the biblical writings of the world, the stages or energy forms between non-material and material are called water or the seas. With this hidden key that we used from the ancient Egyptian and Atlantean writings, there are many deeper creation truths exposed. Troubled water, for example, indicated some of the emotional love or creative energy that was cut off. Well, the Hebrew account of the plants and life forms coming from the seeds or archetype energies within their forms is done by a singular creator. A later creation of a higher non-animal man species is done by a plural creator, the Elohim, coming itself from the term Alheim, meaning a council of gods. The term Eden comes from Gan Eden, a term for Mesopotamia, and for Mesopotamia is the term for middle land, or that middle ground between darkness and light, that area that we humans are evolving ourselves in, to learn self-control and ethics, the hard way, I might add. It was not a particular physical area as much as a realm that our species was struggling and evolving in. Well, in later Genesis, we find that our planet originally was a living form herself, and her blood, or the water, did not rain down on her body, but rose to the surface and covered all plant life as a mist from the earth. The protective canopy that protected our environment was eventually lost, and the later higher Van Allen radiation belt went into place as a substitute. Now, the subject of the Earth's canopy is covered in dozens of little-known books, and even a periodical in the 1980s, and it's just too lengthy here to go into. But it is enough to remember that Earth's climate and radiation is very much different now than it once was. The climate was once much milder and much more stable, like another planet that is in our own protective system here and has her own protective canopy. You know which planet I'm speaking of? Well, the radiation from the sun at that time gave more energy, and thus greater health and longevity. And you can get a hint of this type of perfection in Genesis. In Genesis, of course, we all think of the Garden of Eden, but the gardens and vineyards mentioned in the Bible usually refer to fruitful conditions where humans have open minds and are in tune with the Creator's laws of choice, as in this first Garden of Eden. And the wilderness and deserts are the opposite. And they refer to our struggle to regain our awareness and our perfection. It's so simple. The mention of the tree of life in Genesis has its counterparts in virtually all of the ancient cultures. The Hindus, for example, have the Ashvata tree, with its roots gaining nourishment from the Creator's energy, and the 7 branches symbolizing the 7 planes or veils, the veils that we must pass through to gain our immortality or godhood status. The trees generally symbolize the Creator's life force, which is, of course, tapping energy or the Creator's energy and producing fruit. And the rivers flowing into Eden are not indicating material rivers, but the pison or atoms breaking forth in rapid motion to allow us to reach our perfection by using their water. Remember the rivers? Well, Gihon translates breaking forth, and Hiddekel translates rapid motion, and Euphrates translates fruitful. And most of the other cultures of the early eras had similar sacred rivers in their traditions. In some biblical references, it frequently signified the life force stream, an inner chi energy which persons could tap to work non-material into material, or work miracles if you go a step further. Well, the word Adam comes from much older cultures than the Hebrews. One Hindu work 2,000 years older than the Hebrew Bible gives an account almost identical to the Hebrew version and called the life principle Adama. Chaldean and Babylonian accounts, dating before this Hebrew version, also give similar accounts with similar Adams. The one thing the Hebrews did corrupt was the account of woman coming from the man's rib. And in a day and culture where men were masters, we can use a little logic to see how this scenario crept in. In many ancient cultures, like Egypt, the symbol of the Creator was a snake. And even our Mayas in South America had the usual 7 energies of the Creator symbolized with a multi-headed serpent. Well, originally, as we pointed out, there was no need for the life forms on this earth to delve into these questions of why and how, or even make choices of any kind. In the original paradise, all animals, including our own Homo sapien species, were functioning in perfection on instinct and oblivious to all higher intelligence, thoughts, and actions. And then many of the ancient records tell us that there was a chance occurrence that upset our blissful lifestyle and brought change.